If you don't come see it, then you're sending a message that black women cannot lead the box office globally, that you are supporting that narrative.
There's an oft-declared belief that white supremacy or the patriarchy is holding filmmakers of color or women back from success, from gaining access to large budgets with global reach.
Right.
Yeah, it's bullshit. And here's why. See, there's this guy called James Wan. You might have heard of him. He started his career with the ultra-low budget film Saw. Have you seen it? It's a horror movie which was made for $1 million, grossed $103 million, and spawned 8 sequels, forming a franchise that's grossed $1 billion at the box office. He then followed that up with a film called Insidious. Have you seen it? It's a horror movie which was made for $1.5 million, grossed $100 million, and spawned 2 sequels and 2 prequels, which resulted in a franchise that's grossed $500 million. He then made a movie called The Conjuring. Have you seen it? It's a horror movie which was made for $20 million, grossed $319 million, and spawned 7 sequels, forming a franchise that's grossed $2.1 billion. He then made a movie called Fast 7. Have you seen it? It had a budget of $200 million and is the highest grossing film in the entire Fast and Furious franchise, making $1.5 billion at the box office, and was also certified fresh on Rotten Tomatoes. He then made a movie called Aquaman. Have you seen it? It's the highest grossing DC film of all time at $1.15 billion, even if the critical response was middling at best. Now, after all that, do you notice a pattern here? James Wan loves genre films. He started with low-budget films to refine his abilities and break into the industry. He worked his way up in budget and ambition to the point where he's now one of the best in Hollywood today. Surely this Asian filmmaker should have been cut down by the dreaded white supremacists, right?
Right.
Well, here's the best part. He had 2 flops back-to-back in Dead Silence and Death Sentence in 2007. And yet, even with that on his resume, he kept climbing the ranks. Almost as if the bigoted boogie monster doesn't live under the bed after all. Now, let's compare this against another filmmaker, just for fun. Meet Chloe Zhao. Her first film is an indie called Songs My Brother Taught Me. It's set on an Indian reservation and tells the story of a bond between brother and sister trying to live a better life. It had a minuscule budget and grossed $150,000 at the box office, though it was nominated for a Camera d'Or at Cannes. Have you seen it? Her next film was The Rider. It's set on an Indian reservation and follows a former rodeo star. It grossed $4.2 million at the box office, was on numerous Best 10 Films of the Year lists, and was nominated for Best Feature at the Independent Spirit Awards. Have you seen it? Then she made a film called Nomadland. It's about a woman who gets laid off from her job and decides to travel around America. It had a budget of $5 million. This movie broke the mold for Chloe, grossing $39 million, won the Golden Lion at Venice, and 3 Oscars. Have you seen it? She was then given the reins on The Eternals, a Marvel film with a budget of $236 million, and which now required Chloe to film fight scenes and use CGI and, oh, get this, entertain the audience. Have you seen it? The Eternals made $402 million at the box office and ended up a critical and commercial flop. Chloe's an Asian filmmaker as well. But did you notice a little difference between her and James? Well, for starters, she isn't a fan of genre films. She likes character studies. She has never made a crowd-pleasing film. She prefers plaudits from a more elite crowd. Could there be something other than bigotry which affected Chloe's career?
What the hell are you talking about?
Need another example? Meet Ryan Coogler. His first film was Fruitvale Station. It's about a black man, Oscar Grant, killed by police officers. It was shot mostly with handheld camera, had a budget of $900,000, and yet grossed $17 million at the box office. It also won the Grand Jury Prize at Sundance and was included in numerous top 10 lists for 2013. His next film was called Creed, a Rocky spin-off following Adonis, the son of Apollo Creed. It was shot utilizing a range of cinematic techniques, had a budget of $35 million, and grossed $173 million at the box office. It even had the great honor of being a critical hit, with its screenplay singled out as one of the better works of the 21st century. Yeah, I think that's a stretch too. But guess what happened next? He made Black Panther, a Marvel film with a budget of $200 million and which grossed $1.35 billion at the box office. Now here's something that will blow you away. Ryan Coogler is black. And yet, that hasn't held him back from delivering well-made, crowd-pleasing films in the bigoted states of America. So, what happened? Did white supremacy take a vacation? Did someone forget to schedule in the review bombing session on Creed's IMDb page?
What the hell are you talking about?
Turns out bigotry ain't shit in the 21st century. Instead, Ryan developed his skills, growing in competency and gaining experience, creating exhilarating films as he moved from a budget of $900,000 to $35 million to $200 million. The issue, dear viewer, is not some hidden hand of malevolent hate working overtime to crush people of colour. The issue is a complete lack of self-awareness amongst filmmakers. But wait, there's more. Meet Ava DuVernay. Her first film was called I Will Follow. It's about a woman caring for her sick aunt and contemplating her future. It had a limited release and failed to win any significant awards, though Roger Ebert did give it 3.5 stars. Then came her next film, Middle of Nowhere. It's about a nurse who could have been a doctor but now spends her time trying to get her husband paroled out of jail. It was made with a budget of $200,000 and grossed $236,000, which means it lost money. It cut through with critics though and helped grow Ava's reputation in the industry. But there's nothing here to suggest she has a desire to make crowd-pleasing films, let alone an aptitude. And, you know, between you and me, if I was a bigot, I'd probably use the excuse that she's made 2 commercial flops back to back to scuttle her career. And yet, that never happened. Her third film, Selma, was a hit. It follows Martin Luther King in the lead up to his speech on the Capitol steps with all the drama and hardship of that journey. It was made with a budget of $20 million and grossed $67 million at the box office, which means it made a profit. Selma was nominated for 2 Academy Awards and even won one for Best Original Song. Pretty sweet. What happened next? Well, a filmmaker with 0 experience outside of indies was given $130 million to adapt the sci-fi fantasy novel A Wrinkle in Time. Now, let's ignore the race swapping in that film and just focus on Ava's journey. She went from a budget of $200,000 to $20 million to $130 million without any experience working in the action, thriller, horror, sci-fi or comedy space. And guess what? A Wrinkle in Time flopped. That's right, folks. A filmmaker with no understanding of this particular style failed to create something critically and commercially successful. So, naturally, it must be white supremacy attacking Ava, right?
Right.
Or would it be more appropriate to declare that Ava and Chloe's failures were due to sexism? Because, in case you didn't realize, they're women.
What the hell are you talking about?
Anyone who's made it this far into the video knows that both ideas are bullshit. The real issue here is experience and knowledge. James and Ryan built their way up towards the big budget films. The path to success is uneven. James has made more films than Ryan before he got to that place, but the principles are the same. So what's the moral of the story? Well, I'll keep it simple for the brainlets. If your career is shit, then you're shit at your job.
What the hell are you talking about?
Shit at writing, directing, editing, acting, cinematography, you name it, you suck. The best and brightest always rise to the top. Just look at Spielberg. The second piece to unraveling this mystery just might shock you, but here it is. Innate ability is never enough. You need to refine your talents through repetition.
What the hell are you talking about?
Or in other words, the more you create, the more you learn. Spielberg started in TV, then low-budget films before moving his way up until he transformed the entire industry, dominating every conceivable genre. That sounds awesome, but don't ever ignore the process. Ava and Chloe could make a critically loved indie because they had experience in that space. They couldn't make it with the big budget films because they didn't have any experience working in the genre space. See the connection? Now some might get to the top in their 20s and others might get there in their 60s. Who knows? But it's always the same result. Winners win. Losers bitch and moan. It isn't race, sexuality, or gender holding you back. It's just talent and hard work. Thanks for listening.
Let's reel him in, boys. Don't run.
Everybody runs.